James chapter 1 verse 27. Pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their trouble, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. So, pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father, being holy and undefiled. The life which is acceptable before God and the Father is this. First, to keep oneself unspotted from the world. A certain pastor went to go to evangelize to a prostitute, and later he lived with her. Do you think God would accept that? Even they say single women who give birth to babies, they say that there's a saying that says that they have something to say. So first thing is, we must keep ourselves unspotted from the world. When we save a sinner, we should not become part of the sin. And as one keeps themselves unspotted from the world, he must visit orphans and widows in their trouble. That's why Elijah was sent to the house of the widow. So the last Elijahs, no matter what kind of sinners they are to save or evangelize, they will protect themselves and keep themselves from being defiled. And not only that, they will visit orphans and widows and love them and guide them to God just as Elijah did. Then, who are these last orphans and widows? It's not just someone who's lost. So orphans are not just anyone who's lost their father, or widows are not just any women who've lost their husbands. But these widows here are speaking of the church. The church who lost their true husband Jesus and instead went to a false husband, woe to the demons. They're speaking of all the churches of this world. We must now guide all those churches to the true husband. That is the mission of Elijah. And orphans are not just children who've lost their father, but all the children on this earth who are again today wandering, having lost their real father. I hope that you will guide these orphans to their real father, and that is the mission of Elijah. Will you do this? So first, you must purify yourself and keep yourself undefiled and unspotted. And then you have to guide the orphans and widows to their true husband and true father. And that's why God sent Elijah as an example. Next. In these last days, all these religions and denominations will set up walls and fight with each other and become like enemies. That's why Elijah was sent far away, far from all those denominations and religions, and sent to the Gentile land and made them into one family. So the last Elijahs as well. It should not matter what religion or what denomination. They should be able to live with everyone as one family, as one brethren, and guide them all to our real Father. Those who pick on true or false denomination cannot be saved. Denominations were made by Satan. God is one and truth is one. Jesus is one. Faith is one. And eternal life is also one. If you take those people, those Christians to heaven, they say, I'm Catholic, you're Christian, you're Buddhist. And they'll start to argue and fight. So, when it comes to the last Elijahs, they should not pick on denominations, or they should not pick at nations, nationalities. And next, God knew that the so-called people of God would try and kill him. So, he sent them far away where he would not be harmed. You know, for Elijah, it's too difficult for him. It's something that he could not accept. It's very disgraceful because he's truly living a holy life, and God is telling him to live with a widow, but yet he obeyed without a word. And that was his happiness, and that was his safety. For 3.5 years, when the government and the church were one, and they were looking for him, they could not find him. Why? Because God had already sent him to a safe place. Another thing, let's look in Revelation chapter 14, verse 4. These are the ones who are not defiled with women. Verse 1. And I looked, and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000. Verse 4 and 5. These are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These are redeemed from among men, being first fruits to God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no deceit, for they are without fault before the throne of God. So we know that the first Elijah, he ascended to heaven. Now, do you believe the last Elijahs will also ascend to heaven alive? They will ascend to heaven alive. Then, who will be the last Elijahs which will go to heaven? They will be like the first Elijah. And though Elijah lived in the house with the widow and lived without any sin, in the same way, the last Elijahs who will ascend are the ones among the 144,000 are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. What does this mean? They do not join themselves with the churches which have become like prostitutes and sold their chastity to the demon. They are the ones who will ascend to heaven. And another meaning is that they are the ones who will never have problems with the opposite sex. Even if they live together, they will not sin. And only those kind of people can go to heaven and live. Do you understand? Jesus 2,000 years ago, he did not sin, even in a passing thought. Then, those who are to ascend to heaven, these last Elijahs must also be the same. Then we must understand how far our daily life right now is from that. You know, even there are many people, if they close their eyes, all they think about are immoral things. Except for the husband and wife, which God has joined you to, they should not even sin in their thoughts. Why? Because in heaven, that is, they are already judged as a sinner who committed that sin. So, how holy must Elijahs be? Even if a young man and young woman are naked in one bed, they should not be able to sin, even in their thoughts. They are the ones who can ascend to heaven. You know, Jesus was a man. Moses was a man. Enoch was a man. Then if they if they were in the same bed with some woman, do you think they would sin even in their thoughts? Of course not. Heaven is a very nice place. There are many things to eat. We are filled with vitality. We are not sick. We don't need to sleep because we're so filled with strength. And not only does our soul, but our flesh, our body will also go to heaven. Then, when we go to heaven, we're filled with energy, and men or women will live together there. Then would you say, oh, men, women, guys, girls, be separate? Do you think you'll follow us around for eternity? No. You can enjoy, you can spend time with each other as much as you please. But those who will not sin in heaven will be able to be the ones who go there. So we must know how far we still are in being prepared from heaven. So beginning from this meeting, let's be awake and alert. You know, even Confucius used to teach that men and women should be separated. Boys and girls should be separated from 7 years old. You can imagine how immoral it was at that time. But me, I say 17, 21, let them work together. Let them evangelize together. Let them go out together. Let them do things together. You know, people not meeting and not sinning, that's what you can do with dogs and animals. Dogs and animals will not sin, will not commit sin because they are not together, if they're separated. How about people? They should be able to live together and be together and still not sin. The truth of Confucius is actually a little low. The last truth is the highest level of truth. You know, I think I make young men and women do missionary work and do evangelism and do this and that together. You know, even people, even especially in this stone country, men and women will gather together and they say, oh, no one's not watching. And they will sin. People say, oh, this is a great opportunity. And they sin. But at that time, God says, oh, this is a great opportunity. Let's see what my son and daughter will do. You know, Job, our real daddy bragged about Job. Have you seen my son Job? Have you watched my son Job? Have you looked closely at my Job? There's no one in this earth like him. My son, he's the best. No matter what situation he was placed in, he did not sin. God, He looks at your life. Before going to heaven, He will search and see how you act in your daily lives. Can this son, can this daughter live in heaven and not sin? And if he says, fine, he's passed, he's okay, then he can go to heaven. But yet how can we still have such immoral thoughts? There are people who even plan to sin. If our thoughts, our plans, our ideas are immoral, then God will not be deceived twice. You know, Joseph was tempted by the wife of Potiphar. We heard a lot about this. And there are many people who attend this seminar who've never believed in God. Because it doesn't matter what religion or what denomination, or even if they had no religion. You know, Potiphar was the highest general. And the wife was very, very beautiful. He was one of the most beautiful. She may have even been Miss Egypt at the time. And every day she would tempt Joseph because he was also good looking. Of course, God knew. One time, when Joseph went in to give a report, she told him to come into the room. And when he came into the room, she grabbed him. If you listen to me, I will make you successful. I will give you gold. Or else I will kill you. Joseph said at that time, how can I commit this great sin before my Lord God? I've never thought about this. And he took off his robe, which he was holding on to, and he ran away. And later she said, he tried to rape me. And she held up his robe. So after Pharaoh was Potiphar. And they said that he raped her. He tried to rape her, and he was just a slave at the time. And slaves were nothing more than property. So they could have been killed, and no one would say anything. So this is Joseph's coat. Can you believe this Joseph tried to come in and rape me? And when I screamed, he ran away. And you can imagine the whole country was in an uproar. See, only God knew what really happened. But Joseph knew that it would happen. And he chose death than to commit sin. Why? Why did God allow Joseph to receive that temptation? Because He wanted to test him. And that was the most important time at that moment. If he listened to her, he would be successful, he would become rich, and everyone would be envious of him. But instead, he chose to live holy in the sight of God. All of you as well. I hope you will not commit sin, saying it's a good opportunity. But I hope that you will allow our God to say, do you know so-and-so in Korea, so-and-so in China, so-and-so in Japan? There is no young man, there is not such a young woman as holy as he, as holy as she. I hope that you will be the ones in which our God will be able to brag about in front of the whole universe. You know, Confucius would teach his disciples that boys and girls should not sit together even from 7 years of age. And one time they were crossing a bridge, a very narrow bridge. Only one person can pass by. And one time a woman was walking on the bridge and the disciples are watching their teacher. It's a very long bridge because the rivers are quite wide. And if they meet in the river, then someone must turn around. And if they turn around, they have to walk a long while back. So the disciples watched. So Confucius just picked up this woman, this young woman, turned her, placed her behind him, and he just walked. And so the disciples said, I see. And they went to their teacher. Teacher, you always said that boys and girls should not sit together and men and women should not be together. But how is it that you hugged that woman and moved her behind you? And disciples were saying, she was beautiful. She had long nails, long hair. She was very beautiful, nice body. But you know what Confucius said? She was a woman? He did not even know whether it was a man or a woman. He just helped her. He didn't care whether she had long legs or a beautiful figure. People sin according to the way they think. That's why holy saints, no matter even if they're in the land of immorality and they're among prostitutes, they will not ever become dirty. But those who are sinners, even if they're deep in the mountains and they cut their hair and they're all alone, because their brain is a factory of sin, they are always sinning by themselves. You know, the law of God is a law of our conscience. Pigs and dogs will not sin if they're separated. But how can we do this to people? Why is it that people must be separated so they do not sin? And if they are put together, they sin. They're no different than animals. So as saints, even if young men and young women are together, we should not sin. And when we don't sin, we are sealed and He moves us to heaven. So I hope that you allow our daddy to say, do you know my son, my daughter in Korea? There's no one as holy as he, as she. I hope that you are praised by our real daddy. This is exactly why our real daddy sent Elijah to live with a young widow. See, they live together and they love one another, but they do not sin. Elijah's life was our lesson, so that we can also live holy and be able to go to heaven. I hope that you'll live like Elijah and live holy and beautiful in the sight of God.